Coming up on KARE 11 News.
An emotional day for Korean War veterans as they mark the 50th anniversary of the end of a deadly conflict.
Plus, paying tribute to those who sacrificed their lives in the most recent war.
And a woman's body is found floating in a pond just west of the Twin Cities at the site of a motorcycle rally. The news in 1 minute.
You're watching the news on KARE 11.
She was a hellhole over there. Simple as that.
Those who survived the Korean War march in honor of their fallen comrades. Good evening. Rick has the night off. Today marks the 50th anniversary of the signing of the armistice which ended the conflict in the Korean War.
More than 5 million people died in the war. Today, special events around the country commemorated the anniversary of the Korean truce. KARE 11's Scott Goldberg reports live from the state capitol grounds. Scott?
Well, Brad and Amy, today Minnesota veterans remembered the people who didn't make it back from Korea. They dedicated a wreath here at the Korean War Memorial in St. Paul. They celebrated South Koreans' freedom, and they talked again about North Korea and the possibility of returning to war there.
History may call Korea the forgotten war. The Minnesotans who fought there are more descriptive.
Korea was much colder, and it was humid over there. It was a hellhole, really.
50 years later, they remembered the 700 lives Minnesota lost in a war that killed more than 36,000 Americans.
There's so much difference between the North and the South that so one of these days, all hell is going to break loose in my book.
The war started in 1950 when the communist North invaded the South. 3 years later, an armistice ended the fighting, but there never was a peace treaty. Today, still communist, still technically at war with the U.S., North Korea celebrates victory on July 27th, claiming to have repelled American invaders from the country President Bush now includes in his axis of evil.
There are no rights, there is no freedom, there is no economy, there is no opportunity, there is no connection to the outside world. It is really a hermetically sealed cult.
The country is poor and its people are starving, and armed with nuclear weapons, unstable North Korea is still a threat 50 years after the war.
I really think we should have fought North Korea instead of Iraq, because I'm still trying to figure out Iraq.
50 years later, Americans are still in South Korea, about 37,000 troops standing guard where so many of their countrymen died, while around the world, troops continue fighting.
Korean War veterans fought for freedom from communism as we now fight for freedom from terrorism.
That last speaker, Major General Gene Andreotti, was making his first public appearance today since last week he announced he's stepping down as Adjutant General of Minnesota National Guard. He did not address his stepping down today, didn't say anything about the controversy or the complaints that have been filed against him. He said any comment on that matter would have to come from the governor's office. The general said he was here today only to pay respects to the veterans who fought in the Korean War. Brad, Amy.
All right, Scott, thank you. Well, about 100 people gathered to remember the fallen U.S. troops from the most recent war, including Private First Class James Hergott from Minnesota. The event held at Shakopee Senior High School was meant to show support for the troops still over in Iraq. It included a special military flyover and a balloon release.
Today's remembrance comes as another U.S. service member was killed in Iraq. A rocket-propelled grenade attack on a U.S. night patrol near Baghdad killed a U.S. Marine and wounded another today. The Marine, a member of the 1st Expeditionary Force, is the 5th U.S. troop to die in ambush attacks in the past 24 hours. Guerrilla attacks on U.S. forces have killed 49 soldiers since President Bush declared major combat over on May 1st. 10 have died since U.S. forces killed Saddam's sons Uday and Qusay earlier in the week. Also in Iraq, U.S. forces believe they came very close to catching Saddam Hussein during a pre-dawn raid in his hometown of Tikrit. Members of the 4th Infantry Division stormed 3 farms in simultaneous raids after getting a tip that Saddam's new security chief was staying at one of the houses. U.S. forces detained several residents. Some told the troops the man they were looking for had been at one of the farmhouses and they had missed him by just 24 hours.
Candy, Ojai authorities are investigating the death of a woman whose body was found in a pond at the site of an annual motorcycle rally. Investigators say the body was found at about 7 this morning at the Rumble to Revy site near Atwater. The 2-day rally wrapped up overnight and as many as 1,700 people attended.
We did every measure to make sure like something like this did not happen. And I don't know what happens at this. I don't know what happened, and hopefully we'll find out.
At this time, it is not known how the woman died. The Ramsey County Medical Examiner will perform an autopsy. Authorities have not released the woman's name.
Tonight, investigators are trying to determine why a man hit and killed by a car was laying in the middle of the road to begin with. It happened just before 4 this morning. Police say a Delano man hit 32-year-old Brian Bratvold on Highway 12 west of Montrose. Bratvold was from Litchfield. Tomorrow night, family and friends of the 2 men killed in a car crash in Minneapolis Thursday will gather to remember them. The car hit a center support on a bridge, then burst into flames, killing the driver, 26-year-old Robert Strandleen. Scott Letourneau, who was a passenger in the car, died yesterday. Their families are holding a joint funeral.
Another lawsuit is on the way in the death of Vikings player Corey Stringer. An attorney for Stringer's widow says Kelsey Stringer will file a federal lawsuit tomorrow against the NFL. Stringer died of heat stroke 2 years ago during training camp. Kelsey Stringer later sued the Vikings as well as the team's training camp physician. A judge dismissed her claims against the team earlier this year, and she reached a settlement with the doctor for an undisclosed amount. Kelsey Stringer says the NFL should be held accountable because it sets the procedures for mandatory training camps.
People in New York City will hold a candlelight vigil tonight to honor City Councilman James Davis, who was gunned down by a political rival. Davis brought Othniel Askew into City Hall with him Wednesday. Askew shot Davis just as he was preparing to attend a council meeting. Police then shot and killed Askew. Davis's body will lie in state tomorrow in the City Hall rotunda. His funeral is Tuesday. 9 rescued Pennsylvania miners are marking the anniversary of their rescue. 1 year ago today, rescuers managed to reach the miners who had been trapped underground for 3 days. Yesterday, 5 of the miners and some of the rescue workers attended a ceremony at the site.
Makes you think, start thinking about it and going, being under there and stuff. It was quite an experience, needless to say, but I'm just glad we're all here.
The celebration ended with the unveiling of a bronze miner statue, which will sit overlooking the rescue shaft.
Federal prosecutors have dialed into MCI. They want to know whether the phone company defrauded other telephone companies out of hundreds of millions of dollars. The investigation comes after accusations that the company masked long-distance calls as local calls to avoid paying certain fees to carriers across the country. The investigation is based on internal documents and information from former MCI executives as well as 3 other telephone companies.
People in Buffalo Lake will get some federal help as they try to recover from last month's tornado. The twister caused about $12 million in damage. The Small Business Administration has declared Renville County a disaster area. That means people who had any damage are eligible to apply for disaster loan assistance. A temporary office will open at Buffalo Lake Public School on Wednesday.
Some road closures in the Twin Cities could slow your commute in the coming week. In the Southwestern Metro, tomorrow at 6 a.m., the northbound Highway 100 ramp to westbound Highway 62 will close. It's shutting down so MnDOT crews can sandblast and paint the final part of the Highway 100 bridge. The ramp reopens a week from tomorrow. And in Minneapolis, it's time for some summer cleaning and maintenance in the Lowry Tunnel. The tunnel will close tomorrow night at 10 and reopen at 5 a.m. Tuesday. It closes again, however, overnight on Tuesday. Well, coming up on KARE 11 News, taking the last day of the Aquatennial.
We will show you some of the wacky boats to hit the water in the milk carton boat races.
Plus, he did it again. Lance Armstrong captures his 5th Tour de France. Sports will have the highlights.
And in the backyard, the dew points are 30 degrees cooler than they were yesterday. Yes, it's much more comfortable, and I'll have this week's forecast coming up in a couple of minutes.
You're watching the news on KARE 11 with Rick Capcella, Belinda Jensen, and Tim McNiff. This is KARE 11 News Weekends. Celebrating 50 years of serving the community. Happy birthday, KARE 11.
11. Rock the boat, don't rock the boat, baby. Rock the boat, don't tip the boat over.
Arrgh. Pilots sailed the waters of Lake Calhoun hoping to capture the bounty in the Aquatennial milk carton boat races. Dozens of teams competed in this year's races.
It's one of the final events of this year's Minneapolis Aquatennial, which wraps up today. Check out some of the competition. There were cows, a giant floating mosquito, and we don't quite know what this boat looked like before it began to sink. Believe it or not, its passengers did manage to bail enough water to get it across the finish line. And this is Skeeter Trouble, which won the 12 and under race. The races ended with the milk carton boats going straight into recycling.
At another Aquatennial event, kids got the chance to throw out a line. It's part of Ron Shera's fishing school, an Aquatennial tradition for more than 25 years.
What we hope kids get out of this is just to whet their appetite for fishing.
Besides casting lessons, kids learned how to ID different fish and how to keep Minnesota's waterways clean. And in case you missed last night's spectacular Aquatennial fireworks show, you'll get a chance to see it tonight right here on KARE 11. We'll broadcast the Target Fireworks Show at 10:35 p.m. That's right after KARE 11 News at 10.
Now here's a look at what you'll see tonight at 10 in the KARE 11 News Extra.
Tonight in the KARE 11 Extra, a story only one man can tell. Battling for his life, he aims his camera and his passion at himself.
I felt that this is probably one of the most important stories I would ever have to tell.
An astonishing journey tonight at 10.
And Belinda joins us now. We broke the fever, so to speak. The humidity kind of disappeared.
Big time, yeah. It changed quite a bit overnight. High pressure now. We have lower dew points. But yesterday was the warmest day. In case you missed it, we had dew points yesterday that were as warm as they get here in Minnesota in the 80s. We did have an 82-degree dew point in Faribault yesterday. Our warmest ever is actually, or our highest ever is 84. Let's start out by taking a look at our high and low for today. Yesterday, by the way, was our third day in the 90s. We've only had 3 days so far this year. Normally we have around 14 or 15. Of course, we have all of August to get through, and we'll probably have some 90s, of course. But 86 is where we topped out today, 69 for the low, and no precipitation. So a little less hazy today, not too bad as well. We have clouds that are kind of filtering in right now. We have some rain showers that are off to our west near Marshall, and those are the clouds that are coming in. But other than that, it's going to be a very nice evening. Let's take a look at the evening hours and see what you can anticipate. Right now it is 83 degrees and mostly cloudy here in Golden Valley, partly cloudy in the eastern suburbs. In the 6 o'clock hour, we'll probably see more clouds than sun as the clouds start to increase. The sunset tonight is at 8:46, and it'll probably be beautiful with the clouds increasing. And then at 11 o'clock, it'll still be mostly cloudy and 76. And our western friends just west of us could see a couple of drops of rain, maybe near the Wilmer area, Glencoe, Hutchinson, maybe a couple of raindrops here and there, New Ulm as well. Other than that, though, it looks as though they'll dissipate before they get to the Twin Cities. Well, let's start out taking a look at some afternoon temperatures. A big change from yesterday where we saw 24 cities hitting 90 yesterday. Today we were in the 70s all across the North Shore with a north wind, 70 in Duluth, 72 in Silver Bay, 82 in Moose Lake, 81 in Detroit Lake, 77 Alexandria and Morris this afternoon. And across the Twin Cities, temperatures vary between 71 and around 82, 75 in New Richmond and Wisconsin, 84 in Red Wing, 82 in Faribault today. A little bit more comfortable yesterday with that 82-degree dew point and the temperature in the low 90s. It felt like 108 in Faribault yesterday. And actually our warmest temperature yesterday was marked up in Cambridge, where it did hit 93 degrees. So it was a warm day all across the area. Now the dew points have dropped off, and those 70 and 80-degree dew points have actually pushed to the south, and the 80s have dissipated. But here's some 70-degree dew points still to our south, all that heat and humidity, and much more comfortable conditions over us, thanks to high pressure that is building in. As I mentioned, we have some showers that are off to our west. Here they are right here, and they're starting to dissipate and kind of fall apart because high pressure is moving in, and it's not very conducive for shower activity. But as I mentioned, a couple of showers being reported in the Marshall area. Everywhere else, it looks like it's actually evaporating before it hits the ground, but there could be a couple of raindrops tonight, and you'll notice those clouds increasing as they already have here in the Twin Cities. But the rest of the evening should be just fine. And then tomorrow looks pretty good as well, with high pressure over us, sinking right across the state throughout the day tomorrow. Things look like they'll be very quiet. Then on Tuesday, you see this low pressure center up to our north. It's a pretty compact low pressure center for this time of year, and consequently it is going to move across the northern tier of counties on Tuesday during the day, and there will be an associated cold front. So by Tuesday night, there's a chance of thunder here in the Twin Cities. Northern Minnesota will see some thunderstorms around lunchtime. Let's take a look at your forecast and we'll spell out your week for you. It won't be too bad. Tonight, partly cloudy, breezy, mostly cloudy at the present time. The clouds will start to dissipate later on and we'll dip down into the low 60s, so a little bit more comfortable for sleeping. Tomorrow, it's going to be in the low 80s and a great day. Partly cloudy. Those clouds will kind of percolate as the day goes on and then they'll kind of dissipate in the late afternoon hours. The 5-day forecast looks like this. Once again, late Tuesday, thunderstorms. Wednesday, a good chance of thunderstorms. Thursday morning, a raindrop or two, and then it clears up. Temperatures cool off for a couple of days. Wednesday and Thursday in the 70s. The greater Minnesota forecast in Wisconsin for tonight, once again, just a slight chance of a raindrop, but overall tomorrow will be nice statewide. There is a slight chance of a thunderstorm in the afternoon, an isolated thunderstorm at best in the Menominee and Rice Lake area tomorrow afternoon. So kind of a quiet start to the week. And, you know, this is our warmest week of the year, Brad. I mean, really warmest week of the year. So it looks like, Amy, we're going to be actually dealing with a little bit cooler conditions than normal.
All in all, a nice week.
Not bad.
Thank you, Belinda. Still ahead in sports with Eric Perkins, the Vikings sign their last rookie holdout.
And the Twins in Cleveland for a marathon of a game. The result up next. Welcome back. Time now for sports with Eric Perkins. You know you have to do me a favor.
Okay.
Let's hear the red impression.
Purple pride, purple pride.
That's very good.
Sorry. Yeah, I do have purple pride too, and
we all do.
Yeah, getting there.
Yeah,
still kind of in baseball mode. Every Viking is in training camp now as 4th-round draft pick Ontario Smith signs his contract. The rookie out of Oregon has nicknamed himself Sod. That apparently stands for Steal of the Draft. Nothing like a little self-confidence. Coach Tice is happy to get Smith in the fold, but admits he's definitely behind the curve.
He missed 14 days of developmental camp. To me, you can't get on the field as a running back for any length of time if you aren't up to speed in pass protection. It's not just about handing a guy the ball. You know, you can find guys on the street that can run the football. You got to be able to block, and you got to know all your assignments. And missing 14 days of developmental camp that we went through puts him 14 practices behind.
Well, the leader of the offense is very much on schedule. Dante Culpepper is healthy, feeling good, looking good, and is obviously a very vital player when it comes to the success of the offense. It centers around him, but that doesn't mean he has to shoulder the entire load himself, especially with all the weapons surrounding him. Pep believes part of his problems last year was that he tried to do too much, and he says he's learned from those mistakes and has adjusted accordingly.
I can look back on it and say, you know, I want to win so bad. I feel like sometimes I can do it all myself, and nobody can. Nobody can. I don't care who it is. Nobody can do enough to win in this game by themselves. In the game of football, it takes 11 guys on each side of the ball.
Twins put in a little OT today in Cleveland, but eventually it's the Indians that pull out the game in the 14th inning, nabbing the series while they're at it. Twins will come home all next week now. Decent pitchers duel early on between Rick Reed and Jason Davis, thanks in part to some great defense. Check this out. Indian second baseman John McDonald with the around-the-back toss to Johnny Peralta to get the force on Jock Jones. Twins get some good D. Also, Doug Mankiewicz laying out for this Jody Garrett grounder, then getting up to throw to Rick Reed covering. It's all tied up at 1, but in the top of the 6th, Jock Jones steps up and delivers the single to center. Milton Bradley's throw is a BB right on the money to Tim Laker, but A.J. Przinsky gets in safely, and Minnesota takes the lead. It would hold until the bottom of the 9th. When all-star closer Eddie Guardado fails to get the job done, Victor Martinez, the sac fly, Milton Bradley races home, and we're going to extra innings. Finally, in the bottom of the 14th, it's over. Bases loaded. Juan Rincon gives up the base hit to Tim Laker. Former Twin Casey Blake trots home, and the Twins lose 3-2 and fall 6.5 back in the division. That's because the first-place Royals win again today. They knock off the Tigers 5-1. Angel Baroa hits the homer here. But the big story has been pitcher Jose Lima. This guy was all but forgotten, waived by the Tigers after last season. He was playing ball with the Newark Bears of the Independent Atlantic League. The Royals picked him up, and now after today's start, he's 7-0. The second-place team, the White Sox, are 4 back in the Central. They keep the pace, throttling the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. Frank Thomas wallops his 25th homer of the season. 9-1 the final today over the Rays. Bob Uecker gets a front row seat at today's Major League Baseball Hall of Fame inductions. That's because he's one of the guys enshrined at Cooperstown. As a player, Uecker was a third-string catcher with Milwaukee and had a career batting average of .199. But there's a broadcasting wing to the hall, and that's where the play-by-play guy is honored today. Also inducted, former Orioles slugger Eddie Murray, the only player to have over 500 homers and 3,000 hits, and catcher Gary Carter, the first player ever inducted as a Montreal Expo. Lance Armstrong's reign of excellence continues at the Tour de France. The American wins his record-tying 5th title in a row, closing things out today in Paris. The Texan wins the race by 61 seconds, not as dominant as his previous 4, but hey, it's still over a minute. The 23-day, 2,000-plus mile race comes to a close on the cobblestone streets of Paris today. Armstrong vows he'll be back to France in '04 to go for an unprecedented 6th title. He's something else. Ryan Newman is the big winner on the NASCAR Tour. He's having a great ride this year. That's his 4th checkered flag of the season.
I saw some video, some remarkable video. A guy took a spill because the roads were all slick from all the rain.
Yeah, and actually Armstrong took a spill earlier in this tour, and he still battled through it, and he's on the winner's podium once again.
Hey, very quickly, you were at training camp. Do you feel like it's a different team this year?
Absolutely, without question. I mean, you can just tell the camaraderie. Everything's just so upbeat. This is a different team this year, and they're going to be a lot better than 6-10. I can tell you that.
You know why? Because they have sod.
There you go.
They've got sod this year. They can't go wrong, right?
Thanks a lot, Eric.
Yep.
Well, finally at 5, it's a case of forgive and forget. Well, not really. President Bush put on his Dixie Chicks gear and welcomed the trio to Las Vegas for a concert. Actually, Madame Tussauds put the wax figure out on a street to surprise people. You may remember the Dixie Chicks publicly criticized Bush's decision to go to war. So what's the weather going to be like?
It's going to be really nice, Brad, actually. We're going to take a look at that 5-day forecast. Tomorrow's going to be nice. Most of Tuesday is going to be nice, but there will be some thunderstorms on Tuesday night and during the day on Wednesday. Tomorrow looks beautiful.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate it. NBC Nightly News is next, and we'll see you back here at 10.
Good night.